Hello and welcome to another DJI Neo drone video. Yes, I'm back in the woods again, and no, I'm not going to be flying around trees or over there in the field. Today I just wanted to show you the journey that I've been on since I got the drone back in December of last year and up to now, exactly what I've done with it, and just give you a little bit of footage over the weeks of how I've started and how I currently am with the DJI Neo drone. Now, it's been a great little bit of kit, as I keep saying many a time, and somebody commented on one of my videos and said it's a great bit of kit, and for some reason I can't get that phrase out of my head, but it really is a great bit of kit. So what I wanted to do is I just wanted to show you, as a beginner, from taking out the box, flying at auto settings around this particular field, to where I was flying it around cathedrals, railway viaducts and all the likes, just to see exactly what you can get out of that little drone for about 160 quid. So let's have a look at the video. So roll VT. So this first bit of footage that you can see here, now this is just in the field that I'm sort of adjacent to at the moment. Now I was just in the woodland area, and as I was flying around there, I thought, oh, I could just get a nice little shot of coming out of the woods into the field. Obviously, you can see the sun blaring. I don't have a filter on. The settings are on auto, so I'm flying it out of the woodlands straight into that sun, which obviously in drone flying terms is probably a no-no. You need to fly it sort of at the side of the sun so you don't get that glare. But obviously, I just got it pretty much that day, and I just wanted to test it out. So I was flying it through the woods, came out, and there was just that blaring sun. Obviously, as I come out, I turn and I go along the field. So when it gets to that stage, I can maybe sort of add a bit of color correction. So as you can see here, there, I've just added a little bit of color correction, and that sort of brought the greens up. You can see a bit more of the sky now. But obviously I needed to change the settings at that point. But as you can see, there is a bit of a difference. It does look a little bit better. But that is just the first video that I think I ever shot when I started flying this drone, just to sort of get some interesting footage for you. Now, the next bit of footage you can see is actually over houses, which is just not too far from here. I just decided to fly it over there when it was all snowy, just to see where all the snow was lying, as you can see on the video right now. And I just went up to about 30 meters or so, and I just flew in a straight line going over the houses. Obviously there's a lot of white in there, the sky's a lot white, so it doesn't look amazing, but that was probably the second time I ever flown it, so I thought it looked great with all that snow, the housing, the height. Yeah, I thought I was impressed by it as a beginner. But as you can see, that the sky is very white, so if you look now, this is a little bit of color correction, so you can see a bit more of the sky. The houses look a little bit better in there. Again, I probably could have changed the ISO, the shutter speed and the likes. I think that was an auto again, because I didn't really understand the whole settings at that point. I just left everything on auto, so that decided what the particular settings needed to be. But yeah, as you can see, the sky looks a little bit better, and yeah, looks nice. So this next little bit of footage that you can see here, obviously I'm trying to angle the camera at a particular height. What I wanted to do, the whole purpose of this shot you can see here, is I wanted to fly the drone straight over this little iron bridge, straight into the next field. But the only panic I had was, I don't know if you can see on the video, there is some little branches coming down. So my panic was that I was going to fly it through, the drone was going to hit one of those little branches hanging down, and it was going to basically drop into the water either side of that iron bridge. So that's why the shot is taking a little bit of a while to get in position before I do fly it, and then obviously I push forward straight away to get it as far away from that water as I can, straight into that field, and then obviously around into the next field. So the next shot that you can see here is actually in the same sort of area. It's called Six Fields in Hartburn. It's a huge area. It's near Stockton Cut Junction, if you want to look that on a map. But here, all I was doing is just flying it around, trying to find a nice little shot of trains or the sort of cars or anything. In that particular area you can see a lot of deer running around, so I was hoping to try and get something like that, something cinematic, something where I could test the roll on it, so I could do some nice little sideways shots. And as you can see right now, this particular shot I didn't even see the train at first. I could see it coming along, and I thought, right, I might try and follow that along sideways. So there, as you can see, I'm following it gradually along to try and keep that nice smoothness. So that was probably my first ever attempt at something cinematic. Don't judge me on it. It was just one shot that I thought, yeah, I'll see how that goes and go from there. Now, this next little shot, in my head, it worked out perfectly. I went into the tunnel straight through at the right height, all the way along the same height until I got to the end, and I was going to take it out and then bring it up and then angle down at all of the sort of the fields, 6 fields in front of it. But obviously, as a professional drone pilot or someone that's with a bit of experience will know, when you go in the tunnel, it loses signal and has a bit of a fit. So as you can see, I'm going through the tunnel, everything is going perfectly fine. I'm flying at the same height, and then all of a sudden signal is lost. The drone starts to sort of go out of control, and I think it was trying to get higher to gain some signal. So what it is, I pushed forward to try and speed it out just so it didn't smash into the top of the tunnel, and then straight out into the field area that you can see there. As I say, I was inexperienced, a lot less inexperienced than I am now, so I didn't think that it would end up doing something like that. I thought it might just sort of say signal loss and just continue, but I didn't know it would try and like sort of fly up or try and, you know, get to a point where it can gain extra signal or satellites. So that was that shot. Now this next shot is in a similar area. It is in 6 fields over the motorway. I wasn't anywhere near it. Obviously it looks I was close, but I was probably about 30 meters, 40 meters or so away from it. A fair distance, so I wasn't going to end up crashing out into the motorway and causing issues. It was a decent distance away from the motorway, but that again was trying to do the roll setting, that sideways setting, just to kind of gradually bring it along and follow those cars and lorries along that particular road. So it went along just to try and get some cinematic shots and then test it out. So that's what you can see there. As you can see, the cars are going along, and I think a couple of lorries go along, and I try and follow those lorries along with the actual settings that I'd put it on. I think it was just on normal mode at that point, but that was that particular setting. So there's that one. Now the next one is over at Preston Park Hall and Museum in Eaglescliffe. If you haven't been there, I would recommend going there. It's got a beautiful museum. I've done a video on it before, so have a look at that. I haven't actually filmed inside, but I've done a couple of videos showing the outside of it. It's a great place. Go in there. It shows you the history of the area, and also there's a cafe there. There's a skate park, which you'll see in a minute, and there's just a lovely walk around there. There's Butterfly World, massive fields, so you can bring your dogs. It's dog friendly, kid friendly, and adult friendly, and drones as well. So as you can see here, my idea was to try and bring the drone up slowly and then just go over the actual skate park. My attempt at first was to try and pretend that the drone was a skater. So I was going to try and go down the actual sort of slopes along and then up the slopes, and then try and go over it and do similar like that, as if I was either the skater view or whether I was the skateboard itself, and kind of sort of go down and up. But I was a bit nervous of doing that in case I was to crash it. So I basically just flew it over it, and then sort of gradually sort of turned around, I think, and then brought it all the way up, and you can see the actual skate area itself. If you're from the northeast or Teesside and you've never been there and you're into skateboarding or you're into the scooters or rollerblading, get yourself there. It's a great little sort of area just to test them out and enjoy it. So yeah, so there's that. So the next footage you will actually see is from the museum itself. It's a great museum, as I say. Definitely get yourself there and check that out. But this footage was taken from a video that I did in regards to the camera on the DJI Neo drone, and it's a 12 megapixel camera on there. So it's not greatest, it's probably the same as you've got on your mobile phone. Some mobile phones like mine have got 12 megapixel and 48 megapixel cameras on there. But as I say, I wanted to see what aerial footage was like. If you haven't seen that, go and check that video out. I'll put it in the description. But with this one, I wanted to try and get some views up above, obviously stuff that you never see when you're walking around the museum. So in the video, you see me take off in front of it, go around the top of it, go around the side of it, over the River Tees and behind it. But the footage you're seeing now was where I was trying to be a little bit braver. I was flying over the new development and going over to where the actual Victorian street is. And I started to bring it right down into the Victorian street, not too low, because obviously there was workmen at the time. The whole place was shut while I was doing this. There was no one else apart from the odd workman in there. I brought it down, and I was trying to keep it down as low as I could, and then I took it a little bit lower, being a bit braver. And then as I got so far, I thought I better bring it up in case I end up smashing it. So then I brought it up, as you can see, and then straight out and up, and then I took it over and then brought it back over. As you can see now, I was taking it back over, so then you can get a nice full angle of the actual frontage of the museum itself. As you can see there, I mean, how cool does that building look? But yeah, I was trying to keep it fluid. There was a bit of a breeze, so there was a bit of movement. I was trying to get as much of the actual museum in shot as possible. So there you can see it there. So the next footage you will see is a more recent video. Now that was taken in Yarm, which was my hometown for about 29 years. Anyway, in that footage, I bring the actual drone up, which you'll see now, and I end up sort of stopping it at a certain point near the sort of top of the arch of the actual railway viaduct itself. Now I did that in order to get the satellites. Now at that point in time, it was about 5 or 6 satellites and it was in the red still. So I had to wait a good 15, 20 seconds for that to sort of start to rise. It got to about 21, 22 satellites and it went white, so I knew it was fine to fly it. So obviously if you're flying and you're a beginner, make sure the satellites are in white and get at least 20 satellites before flying, because then at least you've got plenty of satellites and it knows exactly where that drone is. Now, for this particular bit of footage, I was just flying it around just to show the vastness of that particular railway viaduct. I'm not entirely sure how many arches it got. Has it got 20, 21 arches? I'll put it in below. But it's a huge viaduct that goes from the start of Yarm all the way over the river itself, which you'll see in a moment. Now for this particular one, I flew it over to try and angle the camera down all the way towards where the sort of direction of Yarm station is, to see if there was like a train coming towards me, because my idea was to actually sort of keep going down that particular part of the viaduct. As soon as a train was to come, I wanted to basically use that yaw setting that I mentioned a moment ago, and I wanted, as soon as a train was coming back, to basically follow it to a certain point and maybe use the roll, which is a sideways movement. So the train was coming here and try and follow that train along, and then maybe use a yaw to sort of then see it going off at a distance. That was the idea I had in my head. Obviously as a beginner, things don't work out like that. You're kind of flying along, it's all jittery and going all over the place. So I wanted to try and experiment with it and see how well I could do in regards to that. So as you can see, there's no trains coming from Yarm. I turn the camera around, as you can see now, and I start to fly it towards sort of Eaglescliffe direction and towards where the river is. You can probably see the river in the distance. I was flying it over there in the hope that maybe there'd be a train that'd be coming from Eaglescliffe direction onto Yarm direction, and I could do the same, follow that round, and then sort of go forward and follow it as it went into the distance. But that wasn't to be the case, so I decided to sort of film bits of the high street. I filmed over near where the bridges are, the road bridge and the viaduct bridge are, just in the distance. And then what I did is I thought I'll bring it back because I needed to change the battery at this point, because it was about 20-15%. So I started to bring it round, and as you can see in here, I'm slowly bringing it over where the houses are near the viaduct, and I keep going over and then gradually sort of take it over the viaduct itself so you can see the train tracks. And then what happens is, in this particular bit you see now, I'm taking it over and I'm just using cruise control and I'm flying that drone. Basically I'm not touching anything apart from just trying to sort of angle the yaw to sort of keep the focus on the train line itself. Didn't realise there was an actual train coming from Eaglescliffe towards Yarm, which is what you'll see now. So you see that train going along that particular track, and then that's when I try and follow it, and I follow it as far as I can going along. But then I completely mess it up, because what my idea was to just bring I think it was the gimbal down slightly, but what happens there, I brought it down far too fast and ruined that shot. So when you see the actual video that I did, you see the train going off in the distance and it fades to black, because obviously then you see me turn it, or the gimbal goes down too fast, and it ruins the whole fluidity of that particular shot. So I think that was the first actual shot of the train going over and the bridges that I thought was amazing. Now the next bit was a bit nerve-wracking because it was over water. Although it was about 25 meters over water, it was still over water. And what I wanted to do is take it over the road bridge slowly. So it was about 10 meters, 5-10 meters over the bridge itself, fly it over there and keep flying at a constant cruising speed. So it was on cruise control, and keep flying it towards the viaduct, which you'll see now. So I'm gradually getting closer and closer to the viaduct. And my main focus was on the sign of when it was built. So I was focusing on that. You see the superintendent or whatever it says on the front. So I'm going on there, but on the actual camera itself, it looks a lot closer than it is. And I was trying to keep it flying as close as I could until last minute to then bring it up and go over the viaduct and then go to the rest of the river. But the thing was, I was a bit panicky thinking, oh, is it too close? But when you look up at the actual drone, the bridge is here, the drone's about here. But when you're looking on the actual camera, it looks like the drone's here. So it's a bit sort of confusing when it comes to filming that. But yeah, so I end up pulling up. It seems to be nice and fluid, and then I fly over the river as well. So there's that footage. So the next bit of footage was actually filmed in Durham at the cathedral itself. Now for this, I filmed about 10 minutes, something like that, trying to get some different shots. There was a wind, so I was trying to sort of do as many shots as I could so I could pick the best little bits out of it, because sometimes I was flying, I was getting a nice little fluid shot, and then the wind would blow it and you kind of see the camera bouncing around. So then I have to go back and try and do it again. Then I used, I think it was the tracking, where you sort of track the thing and you pan round, and I used that. Again, it was coming round, and it got to a certain point where it started to wave around, so I was trying to cut the best bits out of it. But this is what you'll see now. You'll see the Durham Cathedral, and you'll see various shots that I did, sort of angling the camera up, so you could see sort of from the bottom to the top, and see all of sort of the roof area and the sort of architecture of that particular bit. Then I was doing some nice little yaw settings, not pitch settings or roll settings or whatever it is, where you go sideways, the sideways movement. I'm still getting up to speed with the terminology. But yeah, I was doing the sideways shot so you could see the actual cathedral going around like that. So I did that sort of shot. Then I went above to sort of show you above the sort of the turret area, what they're called, the towers, and sort of the sort of other sections of the cathedral itself. And then the final shot was basically just going up at the end sort of turret section tower, and then sort of pulling out to finish that particular video. It was a bit of a nightmare to do because it was a windy day, and I was trying to use the cathedral as a bit of a shield, but as soon as you got over that particular part of the cathedral, the wind was hitting it and it was flying it all over. But I tried to get the best I could, so I cut the best bits out, as I've said a moment ago. Anyway, so hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give us a like, comment in the description, let us know how you're getting on as a beginner. If you've filmed any sort of areas, let us know your drone channel. Put your URL in the description so I can check out your footage. I do love seeing drone footage, and consider subscribing, because I'm making videos every Wednesday, or trying to, depending on the weather. I live in the northeast. Sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it's pouring with rain and windy, so sometimes it's hard to produce a video. So thank you for watching. Take care of yourself, hope you're all well, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.